They think he gets all the ladies. If you were there, then you would know.
Where the truth lies in the middle of the perception of eyes, have vows that will explain sometimes why it's hard to comprehend. Who's to compromise with the empty promise and full of remorse that can't find a way out of peeking for your light and shadows so that easily they look over the logic and sweat producing that thought. Modified to the sleep through the amnesty for the periphery of the eyes to see the unbelievable, to pray to your ideologies in parallel form for your paradox and your line of propaganda. Proportionally pray before you pray with the eyes open to the closed mind to find the bliss and the execution for the field. Peace beneath the surface of the common ground for the unfamiliar bloodlines untied for the wrists and dissolutely resisting your destitution of the end up the ancestry your belly taught for you had no ears. To feel or witness the mirror for this to be the past passes you messaged over you past the pastors over the distant place the plastic garbage patches over your ozone. You need not to be apologetic for the silence and rather authentic from the never to talk about the ears, the description for the interpersonal relationship, for the interpretation for the scriptures of the living in the word, for the finding in the haiku for the syllables, for the feeling the paralegious pain. Who was settled and unsure to raise a hand for this, the fist tight for the righteous acts, this and no reactions of rice and swipe for your tender topics, for the troubling to strap this life jackets of the culture, the factor for the blood that warms your heart. Ignite the emotion and utilize in your kinetic energy for the circulation to break the cycles and patterns and tolerance and culture for the paradoxes and verbs and synonyms to utilize in space and time. Relevance to find the truth in the numbers and not to forgive for, not to untie the words of curse, to this to find it being tongue-tied. This is a lack of words and misled the heart to piece the paper mache. A balloon to not be crumbled away in the wind for the present. The Kermit love breezes to take your flight at the counting and the number of the times I answered the math that eventually was my calling to know the purpose and I propose. Propose a position to propel yourself. The filling of the vision, the tunnel suicide for the high notes to sing your mother earth, the white notes and the early mistakes and mistaken and missing. What was taken out to replace a reporter distorter for the distant waves of the gravitation pulling and vibrating over your vibes, this families and tribes. Capacity to capital zip codes of oversoul for this reconnected to the soil, reincarnated for the new confined love, ambition to steer clear for the pollution that can't wait. Give a carbon emission, electronic and recondition over the weather for the over conditions and re-invited for this in vital times. This is not to have to wait your time, but this will be libraries where they lie in silence and not to speak too loud to the rouse and awaken the sheep.
If you put your light on my
will never pay attention. You can't afford to mention, to release what you find in any given situation where you're snapped with this and closing eyes and high notes to escape the white noise.
I wouldn't tell a soul
Pay attention to nothing. Stamped to the brain to expedite it, to shift the location to be read wrong and well. She read many stories and never the vision that was told. This non-constant tone that was too low to comprehend what was technological for the comprehending of ways and never to use to find it familiar with. Either way, the wrong for the demanding something to someone different for the what I created, the woes that died for this, the people have wept and wept to see this is all. Shame for the never, instead of that putting your S in front of your with the backyard compliments and your garden never finished. We started to talk about the meals of the processed food for the takeout, some of the same scene for the takeout for the lot of ton of energy for the waste of resources of your energy to generate the hope in the dark place of the carbon copies, emissions, how somehow pass the smog through the pace. Pass the reference check for the points of the registration for the never to be tagged for the color to boldly stand up with the allowed to proceed. No dirt to deceive for the no pro-life for the old dead soil, raises suspension for your cycles of physics and pedals and over your stool for the healthy environmental. Compassion, the compass in which take long trips and nowhere to the half a tank of cigarettes and no break fast. This it broke the fat and relieves the real quick and enough for the appetite for the budget for the maybe the lack that for the will to wash it all down with the drain to the ocean for the where it all ends and started from. It would reach the levels of tolerance for the less that for the which we came to feel to not see the waves of the surfacing over the riding under defense of the shore for the stealing of the shells. This is rich history. A currency sale you'll escape for the allowing you to sail to pieces this until the next storm comes and unnoticed and unprepared for the well announced for the over the clouds. Or changing your moods to shifting your shape for the dreams at night to mirror the mirrors over the waves, the islands of your subtle memory banks where you overdraft accounts to this to save yourself for the work until the spend time for the someone. Or somebody, anyone to overly never to care about enough to save them for the hardship of the war, for the mothers and fathers of being sent to seas and over traffic, put in your front line. Or stones we've been thrown in backpacks and packed around to feel the burden over the people that carry them over the walk to listen anymore without the people that thinking you stole something. Or instinct smelling something fishy but can't sense that for what is missing for the evidence of the proof of the reading your rights to be citizens arrested to give it the rest of remain in peace. While the blind spot in the eye and the storm for the air for the mildew to station your signals and potent guilt for the breezing over your inner streets in your city where you reside in.
I see, I know, I'm still thinking about you. I see, I know, I'm still thinking about you. I see, I know, I'm still thinking about you. I see, I know, I'm still thinking about you. I see, I know, I'm still thinking about you. Dead leaves cover the floor. I need someone to hold me like never before. Should I even bother letting anybody know how I feel? Days are getting shorter, nights are long, it's getting harder to hear. Hay otoño, tengo frío, te robaste mi jardín. Hay invierno que agresivo entre breezes cross on me.
An template of sin, insinuating the intermittent food for thought. For this we waited for the understanding of the weight that was lost to be found. Pollinate the inane interpretation without the full fulfilling of the spirit for the mystical timelines and time outs of truth in your historical oracles of history. Only diverge in the nutrition for the alphabetical, the alpha, the megas for the omens, or whatever the rib, the cage to be for the created with the enrichment, the porter quality over your poetry. Symbolizing the stark of the having the heart for the vows and the brutal booty belly with the jelly and over the belly, best to dying over the sanctuary to inspire your spirit. Into you and to the make it salam a lot alone for this a lot and not alone for the offering of the benevolence and ever non-violent for the never to be criminally acted upon. Would be template for what we eat from for esoteric for the bestowed with the best told to be between males this is righteousness and this is illiterate for the who all fed up with the man for the manipulations for the population to control the lies and truth to stand outside the lines of space time and those who won't watch stop or tell the time to stop to watch the words just to eat to digest the gestures Just in case the heart burns, the world the biggest heart. For this plate is above, below, but the belt for the foul, for the play, for the plagiarism, for the kingship, for the imperialism, for the personating your NATO to ego. Who's the judge to Edos, the days of OJs, the OJs, this bluebirds, the tongue play, the rest behind the bars. 369, the institutionalization of the Zulu nationalities and anomalies over the convert to deity for the contractions. Like an immaculate conception of the reality for the really relocated for the real estate for the gates and templates. Or temples with the pineal glands can't be penetrated for the labels enough for the terroristically. Invade your jaded medicating over the dictations that will web the internet for this to be the inner innings and over the series of goals and defending your galaxies to follow the fantasy for the impregnated vacancy. Just to be air for the fancies of royalty, salty currency for the dependency over the pending you the tail, the donkeys of the either the party depend you to make an ass out of you. Or you two to sleep, the REM for the remedies of the maintaining the suntan for the oil over the dry bones and illusions to be concluding over the this be deterred for the until determined, ignorant, mind deterrent. This is said the rent was too high to shove the joint in the ligaments. A mention over the man for the dimension for the commencing over the word of fencing over your borders and the grits of religion. Relying upon the other's intelligence for the obesity of the obedience and allegiance and over the fine alignment to atonement for the monopolizing over the capital punishment. Poverty for the poets and just the seers just like to sing the blind. The rhythm. Order the borders not to be entertained, but not to train to take orders of state of mind for the mind of all that matters and never the much to me. Training your thoughts and over the man and age just to be the manager for the mankind and kind of look like that with a loose track of time that you looking over the skyline for this minding your business. Later, and you like who was insubordinate and told you to pay attention. Never to find to say earlier that you were quick to lose what found for you for the losing track of your time. You needed the rails to train the tracks. This for the mind, the code for the trains of mind. For the space station, the train like you for being an entrepreneurs for the interpreter. Or internship for the sinking of oceans to sea floors. That luck for the carry you through the talisman for the drown. Your hopes of floating over the buoyancy for the parades of mind, the raining of precipitation and clouds. Control the fear for they the owners, never the call the self, the dog, the karma, for that with the stole the soul, the sage, the this to behave like they were slower than any heights of ever the population for the beat that become the over that after beat. You didn't be taught anything for the pollination that was a bee. What be and that beehive that dried that they shouldn't run the sting over the antidoting over the surviving of them. Because that was the future with attempting over the tip to destroy the bees for the tip over the betray. Forsaken what's taken in enslavement over the myth to see that this would be season preventable or not. Invented for the outcasts and insiders to decide the fate. The type of trees to deforestation for the forefathers and never the faith to be taken to highs to see the bearing witness of the whiteness, blindness. Kindly light the beings not blinded for the ignorance that we can't see. Allow us to see what conundrums be from ceremonies to beat the death for this beating us to beat the beat over the karma for the driving over the crossroads that we'll get. Ran over for the directions of the streets of this stripped up for the peace that faced us and for the stripes. From a flag that's colonized and colonists collect the fees. This from the degrees that they taught the conditions for the temperature. Are held to breathe for the hung over your head like a climate change. They hate change to climate instead for the income to come. Poverty instead of to become. Peace became pieces of the bread. Death that fire fed us and fed it. Hid the Christ for the truth for this for the divine and human for the spirit of the Bible that was a book not a living and ever giving the bread for the life of this is Yahweh for the lighthouses standing in your seashores of darkness. The oceans of the water for the Christ that was bled that was to shed the house of God's the kingdom but instead of that color that shed it for the living. Since the misled like we couldn't read the words or letters that was deceit. Read that we could find a paraphrase of the understanding of what's true.
Get thee behind me, Satan. Get thee behind.
Look like to lick, like to love, the front, the way, the eyes, to love you always and always, days and this and nights, and this a left for the circles of love, that is all right with me. If all right to live in your space to be a Milky Way for you, feed be your baby, your newborn new. You were chosen me. Love me unconditional for the lit that just to be light under the eye shadows of the face of your sun for to make me feel. Daydream over you and feel the safe of your skin and the skin of being familiar with the spirit that was within you and I for the verse of the sounds of the hearts of the beat and sink. What would be like submarine relationship, body of water for the sail to see you again. And surely reach your shore, the island, and for the be mountain, lift me up to be home of the deserted. Or deserts, or just never to the selfish, to the fish, the selfish, never the sign. The selfish should be the by the love of the bypass the love of the seafood. Or that I see when I look at you, when I'm full of love of the will to be to teach the school, the fish, just to learn to swim, for the correlate the lessons of the caught, taught and brought the corny jokes. This vegetarian, pescatarian can never the beef for the acronyms and loud out loud for the side only hearing words. Humility, human, weather, factors, fiction, nonsense. This had a bone for this to pick with a spike, the sharp sword fish at the Oscars award, the celebratory for the celebrate your celibacy for the shore, to no fucks, no orgasm, more organs to play. Keys to open the lock to free your mind, the soul for the curse of hand. Cursive for curse words, this ahead to the paper at the bank of love and the bonds that will build. Interest in always and never enter your restroom for the sleep and this around the pissed off and the never touch the savings account and investments. The inventory for the information, including your income from out the pictures and over the drinking and liquor, over the store for the can't walk or catwalk the discreet for the displays that dispense your dispose of describe. Discroll the scribble over the wet concrete and the have a discreet discover for the discipline for the dissipate for your disappearing over the described. Scroll over the discover for the dislove, disobedient for the discourse and discreet. Dissipate the dissolve for the disperse, the discover for the dislove for the cherish, the dislike for the disdestined of the do was part. The pair of the two for the one desire, describe a opportunity for the declare and define your riches of the discount. Disappear for the redundant enough for the sounds of the disappear at the end. Describe the decimal points of the destiny, the destination, this story. Of love to all, to end, to beginning that becomes as one. And a deed of that instead for the inline, for the information, the individual, for the environment, for the enrolling of the involving doors, and indolent for the insane and international enlightenment for the entering of the energy. Envoys, invitation, intimate for the entire interview for the intuitive, the intake, your innovation for the insurance and industry. Involve and ensure the inherent insight for the including initiative for the independent for the innovation and inadequate in the instance. Incorrect and violating and inadequate for the indicator for the induction for the much this insists your input for the increase of your innovation. And oxygen innovation ingredient for the incorporated for the incapable of inducing your indicator for the indicted for the law for the entailing of entries. Inline enough for the energy enforcing your energy. Or engineering engagement for the entity for the enfeeble over your entourage and and incapable for the incapable enough for the entirely induce your environment. Insurance and effective for the inevitable for the involving your individuals and iniquities. Insects and insecurity, inserted influence and incubants for the input for the infringement and envies. Ensure your indoor inmate for the immaturity for the entitled inventions of your inventory and annuity. Indexing. Incompetence for the incomplete injustice for the injury. Inkling and for the insatiable for the inebriation for the disappear. All India for the internal for the intangible for the institutions. Inlay and organic for the in-order, for the invigorating over the ingrid. Aimbos just the injunction for the injections, or the nimble for the enormous and Indian for the inseeming articulate. Inordinate. Innocence for the immortality for the in-man for the inning and ensuring and invoking for the insider for the insertion for the inhaling for the in-something of the insolent, or insolent for the intactical for the inoperable. Inauguration for the inject that incomplete for the vital installments for the entertaining inevitable for the enough of the in-opera for the incentives of the individuals. Inbound to the between that for the innovation and for the innate for the words of this incision for the invertibility for the final inability for the makeup of word for the such information aside that we are and we will be. Where the truth lies in the middle of the perception of eyes, have vows that will explain sometimes why it's hard to comprehend. Who's to compromise with the empty promise and full of remorse that can't find a way out of peeking for your light and shadows and not easily to look over the logic and sweat producing that thought. Modified to the sleep through the amnesty for the periphery of the eyes to see the unbelievable, to pray to your ideologies in parallel form for your paradox and your line of propaganda. Proportionally pray before you pray with the eyes open for the closed mind to find the bliss and the execution for the field. Peace beneath the surface of the common ground for the unfamiliar bloodlines untied for the wrist and dissolution resisted your destitution with the ending up the ancestry your belly taught for you had no ears to feel or witness the mirror for this would be the past passes you messaged over you past the pastors over the displaced the plastic garbage patches over your ozone. You need not to be apologetic for the silence, and rather authentic for the never to talk about the ears of description for the interpersonal relationship for the interpretation for the scriptures of the living in the word for the finding in the haiku for the syllables of the feeling of the paralegious pain. Who was settled and unsure to raise a hand for this the fist tight for the righteous acts this and no reactions of rice are swiped into your tender topics for the troubling of the strap this life jackets of the cold chill the factor for the blood that warms the heart. Ignite the emotion utilizing your kinetic energy for the circulation to break the cycles and patterns and taught us your culture with the paradox and somewhere synonymous to equinox and space, time, relevance to find the truth in the numbers and not to forgive for not to untie the words of curse to this find it being tongue-tied this lack of words and misled the heart to piece of paper mache. A balloon to not be crumbled away in the wind for the present the current love breezes to take your flight at the counting and the number of the times I answered the math that eventually was my calling to know the purpose and not propose. Propose a position for the propel yourself with the propelling of vision, the tunnel superside for the high notes to sing your mother earth, the white notes and the early mistakes and mistaken and missing. What was taken out to replace a reporter distorted for the distant ways of the gravitational pulling and vibrating over your vibes, this families and tribes. The capacity to capital zip codes to older soul for this reconnected to the soil reincarnated for the who can find the love, the ambition to steer clear for the pollution that can't wait. To give a carbon emission, electronic and recondition over the weather for the over conditions of re-invited for this in vital times. This is not to have to wait your time, then this would be where the libraries where they lie in silence and not to speak too loud to arouse and awaken the sheep. You will never pay attention and can't afford to mention the release. What you find in any given situation where you're stamped for this or closing eyes and high notes to escape the white noise. You paid attention to nothing, or stamped to the brain to expedite it to ship to the location to be read wrong and well. She read many stories and never the vision that was told to this a non-confident tone that was too low to comprehend what the technological for the comprehending of the ways and never to use to find the familiar with. Either way, the wrong for the demanding something to someone different for the what I created, the woes to die for this. The people have wept and weep to seek this is all. The shame for the never, instead of that, putting your ass in front of you with the backyard compliments and your garden and never finish. You started to talk about the meals of the processed food for the takeout, some of the same scene for the takeout for the lot of ton of energy for the wasted resources of your energy to generate the hope in the dark place of the carbon copies, emissions, how somehow past the smog through the pace. Past the reference check for the points of the registration for the never be tagged for the color to boldly stand up with the allowed to proceed. No dirt to deceive for the no pro-life for the old dead soil, racist suspension for your cycles of physics of petals over your stool for the healthy environmental. Compassion to compass in which take long trips and nowhere to the half a tank of cigarettes and no break fast. This is broke and fat and release the real quick and enough for the appetite for the budget for the maybe the lack that for the will to wash it all down with the drain to the ocean for the where it all ends and started from. It would reach the levels of tolerance for the less staff for the which it became to feel to not see the waves of the survey surfacing over the riding under defenses of the shore for the stealing of the shells. This is a rich history. A currency sale you'll escape for the allowing you to sail to pieces this until the next storm comes unnoticed and unprepared for the well announced for the hovering over the clouds. Or changing your moods to shifting your shape for the dreams at night to mirror the mirrors over the waves the items of your subtle memory banks where you overdraft accounts of this to save yourself for the work until to spend time with the someone. Or somebody, anyone, or over and never to care about enough to save them for the hardship of the war, for the mothers or fathers of being sent to seas and over traffic, put in your front line. Or stones we've been thrown in backpacks and pack around to feel the burden over the people to carry over the walk to this anymore without the people to thinking you stole something. Or instinct smelling something fishy but can't sense that for what is missing for the evidence of the proof of the reading your rights to be citizens to rest and to give it the rest of remain in peace. While the blind spot in the eye and the storm for the air for the mildew to station your signals and potent guilt for the breezing over your inner streets in your city where you reside in.
I took a bullet for the bass drum, bribed the cymbal into crashing at my house, broke up with dancehall and I'm now buying a honeymoon for the blues. And I've got a lazy eye that can't see past the bedboard, so I paint pictures on my ceiling to mislead the carpet. If you picked up your vocabulary, maybe I wouldn't stumble over your words. But I guess being broken eventually becomes comfortable, and I get lost in your conversation somewhere between the small talk and the streetlight at the point of destination. If this pen had wrists, I'd slit each one for a mouth so we can argue about inspiration. And I take Tylenol with me everywhere, like a girlfriend holding hands, crossing streets, making commitments. There's road work in my mind causing traffic, and there's a retired construction worker building his shack in my brain. The hammer hits the nail and I begin to rhyme, but I think he died before completion, so the building's on a tilt. My brain is unstable and my rhymes live on a slant. I stay awake to watch the sun wrestle the moon and spend morning half asleep like I'm rich in the night with a pocket full of stars. If I could pay for a plane ticket, I'd buy a life somewhere with a feather repair shop. We're all trying to fly, be something we're not, get hooked by a fisherman with a fish tank, but instead most just cook their catch, then wonder why they're fat, divorced, lonely and graying like chalk dust. The saying that used to fall off the board you never paid attention to in high school, and now cigarettes make the best date, and I hope to burn out before the lights start to flicker. A planet growing old and there's nothing to read, I'm handcuffed to music, licking my wrists when they bleed, and this is where it gets sad, down, blue, the point where I broke up with happiness for a fling with depression. It was the time I took a bullet for the bass drum. She had me nodding yes, I fell in love with her voice. We made love, bought a pad and sold the rights for a quiet existence, somewhere where the cymbal wouldn't cry, and I keep her loud enough to keep me awake because I don't want to fall asleep. I'm afraid of dying like all these other scuff marks, going out without a conclusion, because life, she's a bookshelf, out of order vending machine. Drop a quarter in my smile and inventory my impressions. We're rocketing through life, wishing we had enough fingers to count the minutes, squinting at graves. There's dust falling off furniture everywhere, and it looks as though the morning commute may be quite a dreadlock. We're all going to lose our voice and fade like tattoos of Popeye and spinach can't talk us off the ledge. We'll always be walking away, never becoming brighter. We're dim adjustable lights on blank walls, wishing the owner would buy wallpaper to cover up our flaws. My makeup case girlfriend bought me a face mask to rob myself of independence, and I'm up in arms, down in 6 feet holes, cover me up. There's dust falling off furniture everywhere, rain filling up stairwells, leaves drying up, bark falling off trees, trumpets losing their voice. The sun is blushing and this shirt will wear, buildings will descend. I'm stuck in a changeover, shift layover, restock the shelves. She's a paperback, easy to cut into, a 99-cent bin, a full ashtray, a touch lamp, a classic song that gets due radio play, a terrible chorus that everyone sings along with, a breathing timeline that draws itself a tail when shit gets tough, and a hyperventilating scribble that runs in circles when there's nothing to count on, a draining tub, a fading photograph, a crying child, a shrinking memory, drifting, dimming. I dove to take the bullet for the bass, but it was too late, muffled, flushing, spinning, or maybe the other way around, crumbling, decaying, decomposing poetry at open mic nights for rewind button listeners with mouth wax, burning candle, drowning, drying up, disappearing. The levels decrease, the song fades out, gone.